The moment I pulled the ribbon, I heard my mother snicker. My father didn't bother hiding his smirk. And my cousins, they leaned forward like vultures waiting for a corpse to fall. Inside the elegant silver box wrapped in gold foil, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Empty. Hollow. A joke. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," my mother said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We thought you deserved exactly what you've given this family." The room erupted in laughter. 37 family members, 3 generations, all of them watching me hold an empty box at my own grandmother's 80th birthday party. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. But then, Grandma Vivian, frail, beautiful, dying Grandma Vivian, reached out with a trembling hand and pressed a crumpled note into my palm. "Read this when you're alone, my darling," she whispered. "And remember, the emptiest boxes often hold the heaviest truths." That night, I read her words, and nothing, absolutely nothing, has been the same since. Part 1. The family I thought I knew. My name is Liam Harper. I'm 24 years old, the youngest of 3 children, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the family's emotional punching bag. My older brother, Marcus, is a surgeon. My older sister, Serena, is a corporate attorney. And me? I'm a high school history teacher. In my family's eyes, that makes me invisible. My parents, Richard and Eleanor Harper, built a real estate empire from nothing. They owned shopping malls, office buildings, and a summer house in the Hamptons that's bigger than most town libraries. They measure success in square footage and stock portfolios, and I've never measured up. For years, I convinced myself they loved me anyway, that their coldness was just their way, that the passive-aggressive comments at dinner, "Liam, when will you get a real job?" came from a place of concern. I was wrong. The empty box at Grandma's party wasn't a one-time cruelty. It was the final piece of a puzzle I didn't even know I was solving. Let me back up. Part 2. The birthday that changed everything. Grandma Vivian turned 80 on a blazing July afternoon. The party was held at my parents' estate, a sprawling Georgian mansion with marble floors and a chandelier that cost more than my annual salary. 50 guests, a 5-tiered cake, a jazz quartet. And me? I was assigned to greet people at the door and take coats, like a servant, like a stranger in my own bloodline. When the gift-giving began, I watched my siblings present lavish offerings. Marcus gave Grandma a diamond brooch shaped like a rose, her favorite flower. Serena gifted a first-edition collection of Emily Dickinson poems worth thousands. Then it was my turn. I handed Grandma a simple photo album I'd made myself, pictures of us fishing at the lake when I was a boy, baking cookies in her tiny kitchen, reading stories on her porch swing. It wasn't expensive, but it was real. Grandma cried. Real tears. She held the album to her chest and said, "This is worth more than gold, Liam." My parents exchanged a look, the kind of look that said, "He's making us look bad again." An hour later, they called me to the center of the room. "We have a special gift for you, son," my father announced loudly, "since you love sentimental things so much." That's when my mother handed me the silver box. I opened it. Nothing. The laughter was immediate, brutal. My father clapped me on the back hard enough to sting. "Don't worry, champ. Maybe next year you'll get something useful, like a better career." My mother fake whispered to my aunt, "Some people just can't take a joke." I stood there, cheeks burning, holding an empty box while my family laughed at me. Grandma Vivian sat in her wheelchair at the far end of the room, tears streaming down her face, but not for me, for something she knew, something she was about to reveal. Part 3. The Note. I didn't open Grandma's note until I got home that night. My tiny apartment felt like a cave after the mansion's glittering halls. I sat on my secondhand couch, hands shaking, and unfolded the crumpled paper. Grandma's handwriting was shaky but clear. She'd written, "Liam, my brave boy, you've always been my favorite. Not because you're the youngest or the kindest, though you are, but because you're the only one who ever loved me for me, not for my money. You don't know this, but I'm dying. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe less. And before I go, you deserve to know the truth about your parents. They didn't give you an empty box tonight to be cruel. They gave it to you because they're afraid. 20 years ago, your parents made me sign a document. They told me it was a power of attorney just in case I got sick. I trusted them. I signed. But it wasn't a power of attorney, Liam. It was a transfer of assets. Every property I owned, the lake house, the cabin in Vermont, the apartment building on Maple Street, they took it all. Legally, it's theirs now. But here's what they don't know. 3 years ago, I met with a new lawyer, a good one. We discovered that the transfer was signed under duress. It's invalid, completely illegal. I've already filed the paperwork to reverse everything. The judge's ruling is scheduled for next month. Your parents don't know this yet, but they suspect something. That's why they humiliated you tonight, to test you, to see if I'd told you anything. Liam, I'm leaving everything to you. Every property, every dollar, every stick of furniture. It's all yours. You're the only one who deserves it. Don't tell your parents until the ruling is final. Stay safe, stay quiet, and when the time comes, take what's yours. I love you more than all the stars in the sky." I read the note 3 times, 4 times. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. 20 years. They'd been lying for 20 years, manipulating an old woman, stealing her legacy. And tonight, they'd laughed at me for being poor. The irony was so sharp it drew blood. For the next 4 weeks, I did exactly what Grandma asked. I stayed quiet. I showed up to family dinners with a smile. I let my parents make their snide comments. I let Marcus and Serena treat me like the hired help. But inside, I was counting down the days. August 14th. That was the date of the judge's ruling. Every night I called Grandma. She was weaker now, barely able to speak above a whisper, but her mind was razor sharp. "Have they asked you anything strange?" she said one evening. I thought about it. Dad asked if I'd been to see a lawyer. Grandma coughed, a wet, terrible sound. "They know something's coming. Be careful, Liam. Desperate people do desperate things." 2 days before the ruling, my parents invited me to dinner. Just the 3 of us. That had never happened before. We sat in their formal dining room, a chandelier glittering overhead. My mother served lamb chops. My father poured expensive wine. "Liam," my father began, swirling his glass, "we've been thinking. Maybe we've been too hard on you." I kept my face neutral. "Oh?" "You're a good boy," my mother added, "and we want to help you. We're willing to give you a small allowance, $500 a month, just to help with bills." $500 from people worth $50 million. "And all we ask," my father continued, "is that you stop visiting Grandma so often. She's old, she needs rest, and frankly, your constant presence is stressing her out." There it was. They weren't offering help. They were buying my silence. They wanted me away from Grandma so she couldn't tell me anything else. I smiled. Thank you. I'll think about it. That night, I called my lawyer. Is there any way to move the ruling up? She said, already did. It's tomorrow morning at 9. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:45 a.m. My parents were already there, dressed in their finest, flanked by their high-priced attorney, a man named Sterling who charged $1,000 an hour. Mia? My mother's face went pale. What are you doing here? I'm here for Grandma. My father's jaw tightened. This doesn't concern you. Go home. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman named Crawford, called us into her chambers. Grandma wasn't there in person, but her deposition was played on a screen. Her voice, frail but firm, filled the room. I signed the document because my son told me he'd put me in a nursing home if I didn't. I was 70 years old. I was scared. I didn't know I had a choice. My parents' lawyer tried to object. The judge silenced him with a look. By noon, it was over. Judge Crawford ruled in Grandma's favor. Every asset my parents had stolen was returned to her estate. And since Grandma had filed a new will 6 months ago, witnessed, notarized, ironclad, everything passed to me. Not to Marcus, not to Serena, to me. The look on my parents' faces when the judge announced her decision, I wish I could bottle it. Horror, rage, disbelief. You did this at me. My mother hissed at me in the hallway. You turned her against us. No, I said quietly. You did that yourselves, 20 years ago. My father grabbed my arm. We'll fight this. We'll drain you in legal fees until you're begging on the street. I looked down at his hand, then at his face. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. Try it, I said. Grandma's lawyer is the best in the state, and I've got nothing but time. I walked away. I didn't look back. Part 6. What the empty box really meant. Grandma Vivian died 3 months later, peacefully, in her sleep, with my hand wrapped around hers. At her funeral, my parents sat in the back row. They didn't speak to me. They didn't look at me. They just sat there. 2 people who'd lost everything because they couldn't love an old woman without a price tag attached. After the service, I found a small package among Grandma's belongings. Inside was the empty silver box they'd given me at the party. But this time, there was a second note. Grandma's last words to me. Liam, I kept the box. Do you know why? Because empty things are dangerous. They remind us what's missing. They force us to look at the gaps we've ignored. Your parents gave you nothing because they had nothing real to give. No love, no loyalty, no decency. But you have everything. So take this box. Fill it with your own memories, your own victories, your own family, the one you'll build someday, the right way. And whenever you look at it, remember, the cruelest gifts often teach us the most important lessons. Forever yours, Grandma. I keep that box on my nightstand now, empty, but not because I have nothing, because I'm still filling it. And so are you, whoever's reading this. Your family might hand you emptiness, cruelty, betrayal, but you get to decide what you put inside the box they give you. Choose carefully. Choose truth. Choose love. Choose yourself. The end.